What shapes a person, their nature, or the world around them? Are we the sum of our DNA or the product of our upbringing, our environment, and the culture that surrounds us? This question has persisted through centuries of philosophical and psychological debate, but few mediums capture its complexity as powerfully as cinema. In this film festival titled Are the Circumstances Guilty?, we examine how individual identity forms at the intersection of inner disposition and external influence. Through the selection of 11 films, this festival seeks to explore how people become who they are. But more than that, it aims to challenge the way we define right and wrong, good and evil, not by offering clear answers, but by asking whether we even have the right questions. Rather than asking, are we guilty, or is the environment guilty, the festival shifts the lens to ask, how are we shaped by the blend of self and surroundings, and how do we carry that forward into our actions? The screening order of Are the Circumstances Guilty? Is structured as a thematic journey, beginning in the intimate spaces of family and gradually expanding toward the overwhelming structures of society and systemic control. This progression allows the audience to reflect on how personal identity is shaped by first the home, then by culture, and finally by institutional power. This order is not arbitrary. It mirrors the human experience. We are born into families, raised into societies, and conditioned by systems. The selected films reflect this arc. We need to talk about Kevin, Mommy, and Boyhood explore how early relationships mold or break culture, class, and emotional detachment take that foundation and build or erode identity. Then Dogtooth, A Clockwork Orange, City of God, and Uncut Gems reveal how larger systems, institutional control, systemic violence, and economic desperation finalize that shaping, often at the cost of agency. Together, these films form a layered narrative, how the personal becomes political, how the intimate becomes institutional, and how, in the end, who we are is neither fully chosen nor fully given, but assembled in tension. Kevin is violent, from childhood to his final act, but his mother Eva is distant, even before his birth. The red paint on her door isn't just vandalism, it's guilt that society places on those who raise the broken. Did Kevin choose his nature, or was he forged by rejection? In Mommy, love isn't gentle, it's desperate. Di and Steve's relationship swings from playful to terrifying. Nurture here is overwhelming, not through absence but intensity. Can love still harm, even when it's trying to save? What if your world is a lie? In Dogtooth, children are raised in complete isolation. Even words are redefined. Reality is replaced by obedience. Here, nurture becomes a prison and identity an illusion. Boyhood unfolds over 12 years. No single event defines Mason, but small repeating moments do. This is the quiet power of subtle nurture. We see how identity forms slowly, softly, and almost invisibly. Can you fix someone by forcing them to behave? In A Clockwork Orange, Alex is subjected to psychological torture to correct his nature. But in doing so, the system becomes just as cruel as the individual, who gets to decide what's good. Barry has spent his quiet life controlled, ridiculed, until he erupts. In Punch Drunk Love, his rage feels sudden, but it's years in the making. Even silence is a form of shaping. In The Social Network, Mark builds Facebook to connect others, but loses connection himself. His success isn't born from ambition, but exclusion and bitterness. What if greatness grows from emotional neglect? Uncut Gems is chaos. Howard risks everything over and over. His addiction isn't a personal flaw, it's a learned strategy in a system built on greed. The story of Chiron, a boy who learns to survive by hiding who he is. His identity is shaped by fear, masculinity, silence. What we see is not his nature, but what nurture demanded he become. In City of God, violence is everywhere, normal even. When children grow up with guns in their hands before toys, what choices do they really have? Environment becomes destiny. And sometimes what shapes us isn't what happens, but what doesn't. In Tokyo Story, absence speaks louder than action. As parents are forgotten by their children, we are reminded that neglect, too, is a kind of nurture. So maybe Sartre was wrong. Maybe we are not what we make of ourselves. Maybe we are what's made when nature and nurture crash, when trauma meets instinct, when survival meets silence. This festival doesn't give an answer. It gives you the space to ask who shaped you and did you ever really choose?